You're listening to Live Wild Radio, the part-time adventure podcast.
Join us as we explore how outdoor adventures build mind, body, and spirit.
Welcome back, everybody. But before we get to our show, our favorite source of Get Strong material is Great Lakes Gear. So we partnered up with them. Kettlebells, barbells, pull-up bars. We have one in our living room. What the pandemic has taught us all is that you better have a gym at home because you can't count on the real ones being open. And now to the point where we've canceled all our gym memberships because we've got a great gym at home. So if you want fitness equipment that is good quality, good prices, and you're ready to make some real progress, then go to GreatLakesGearya.com. Use promo code LiveWild to save 5%. And, you know, if you're not sure what to get, one of our listeners, you know, messaged us like last week, and I gave him a whole thing of like, here's how to get started with kettlebells. So if you want to not sure what to get, contact us. We're more than happy to help you out. And it perfectly ties into today's episode, which is about the physical health and I think psychological transformation that comes from when you make a big change and you change yourself. And because my co-host Catherine is the subject of today's episode, I would hand it over to her.
Thanks, Winston. Yeah, this is a great, I'm really excited to talk about this topic today because honestly, it wasn't until recently that people started to say, hey, yeah, you're in the muscular category. So this test you're taking, you have to take into account that you're highly muscular. I'm like, really? Isn't it like every girl? No, not every girl is like that. So there's been a couple instances where it's like you're coming out of the closet, you're not realizing, yes, you are strong. And so to put it in perspective, I've lost 60 pounds. It's taken me 5 years. Probably could have done some things sooner. But as Winston suggested, there is not only a physical transformation that happens, but there's very much a psychological, you know, to make it a part of your lifestyle. How do you keep coming to the gym and being consistent? And let me paint a little bit of a picture of where I came from. So back in 2016, I recently had I separated and I had 2 kids. Very important to note because taking care of yourself is never easy when you have a 2.5 and a 4-year-old. I weighed 238 pounds. I was 40 years old. It was at that time that as I was rebuilding my life, I started to reconnect with what I always loved, which was the outdoors. And I had, I believe, done the Mount Marcy, you know, amongst other things. I'd learned about wilderness survival, but I did my Eat, Pray, Love summer vacation, which was Mount Marcy. Yes, I did do this, and I nearly killed myself. It was basically the tallest mountain in New York State, elevation over 5,000 feet, but you actually climb about 3,600 of it, go up and down all in the same day, 21 kilometers. Took me, 12 hours. But my knees were in a very, very terrible state. And to give you an idea of how bad my knees were, and still are, because it's not gotten better, I have a host of issues. I'll get into them. Essentially, my surgeon, when he saw my report, said in 10 years, Catherine, you're going to need a knee replacement. Again, to put that in perspective, that's a big deal because knee replacements don't last more than 10 years each. So if I'm going to do this when I'm 50 and 6, like that's just not good. Mm-hmm. So I knew right away it was an issue. So what I had problems with is stage 4 osteoarthritis, which is the last stage of my right knee, stage 2 on the left, meniscal tears in both, ACL tear in my right knee.
Well, according to your report that the doctor wrote up,
ACL is not there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
ACL not visible, suggesting a tear.
Yeah, kind of. Anyways, I remember when the physiotherapist read it to me, and the look on her face, like if not one of those things was bad enough, right? The osteoarthritis stage 4, the rest of it was just like a kick in the mouth, right? And what brought me to that stage of seeing the physiotherapist was I discovered I can't walk downstairs without holding the rail to hold my weight. I just can't hold my weight. And that was really disturbing to me. As you can imagine, I'm trying to rebuild my life. I'm rediscovering the outdoors. And I'm starting to realize I may not be able to do what I love. I'm getting emotional because I was very emotional. I remember I was crying when I heard that. Mm-hmm. My kids were in the room, and I realized, holy fuck, I need to make a change. And I had learned, and at that, thankfully, I knew Winston at the time, because I remember before I saw the surgeon, I had asked him for help. I wanted to strength train. I knew in my own instinct, I knew, and from the physiotherapist, I needed to work on exercises to strengthen the muscles around my knee to support. So we were simply doing body weight lunges and squats. And I noticed, interestingly enough, at the beginning, it hurt. But after doing it, second set, third set, you start to almost like add warmth and fluid to the joints. I'm like, oh my God, movement's good for you, right? Mm. That was kind of like an aha moment. And I remember at that time, you're telling me about water intake and omega-3s, huge. And all these things really did help me. And they were the things that helped nudge me doing more and more and more, giving back my life. So I was feeling really good about it. And I was so grateful that I started to do that and go to the gym with you, because then I saw the surgeon, and the surgeon told me not to do those things. Not to do squats, not to do, regardless of how much weight I put on, even if it was body weight, like don't do it, don't kneel, don't hike, don't do the things, Catherine, that you essentially love to do. And I walked out of there thinking, I don't fucking believe it. I want a second opinion. So I went to my doctor and I said, I want you, I don't know how I got to the Grand River Sports Medicine Clinic, but they're a sports medicine, and then the doctor there specializes in knees. I'm like, perfect, because I want an athletic approach. I'm not an athlete.
Yes, you are.
I am now, but I wasn't then.
No, but everybody should think of themselves.
They should, but I wanted to be treated like one. I wanted to not be. I didn't want to give people to give up on me, and I didn't want to give up on myself. So I said, screw that. There's got to be a way. So I saw Dr. Hall. And he explained to me like a host of things, from the key things were weight loss. He told me weight loss, strength training, and reducing inflammation through foods. Those were the 3 key things. But weight loss and strength training, huge. So I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. So what are the things I need to work on? What's weak? And then we started to identify through a physiotherapist that my glutes sucked. Women, knees are often a problem, especially when you're going to hike. And I told them what I wanted to do. I had big, grandiose plans, right? And I told them about the hikes I've been doing and backpack. I want to be, my goal then, I want to backpack 25 kilometers a day and do it for 5 days in a row, no problem. That was my goal. Okay, we'll get you there, right? And we identified the glutes that were problematic. And then I was working with you in the gym. So we went from, that was my start, to getting the approval and support of a health team behind me to start going in that direction. And it was phenomenal. And with that, I believe I was on Weight Watchers and I was losing a little bit of weight. And I think I got down to basically about from 238 at my highest. Mind you, that's right after kids, right? So maybe it was more like 230, I can't remember, to then around 205 through Weight Watchers. And we were going to the gym, I don't know, was it 5 times a week?
Usually 4 days a week.
4 days a week, upper body splits. We were powerlifting, right? And, the journey there in 1 year was incredible. I'll explain the upper body and lower body. So upper body, bench press. I struggled to bench press the bar, 45 pounds. By the end of 1 year, I was doing 95 pounds. I doubled it, right?
For reps, yeah.
Yeah. And then squatting, which everybody would say to me, Catherine, be careful your knees, right? Of course you would, because of what you're doing, the movement pattern. You think it put a lot of strain on your knees. Now you're going to add weight. So again, the same bar is 45 pounds. I went up to 190 in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I was unstoppable, right? And at the same time, and you know, just to be more transparent, because there might be other people who are listening to this with this, you know, similar issues. The other things that I had done to support my journey, my strength training journey and hiking, etc. I got braces for my knees, right? Just to nudge my bones and everything into place, my knee joints into place as I do things. I got orthotics, I believe.
Yeah.
I think I did. And those were the two key things. And I
as far as support devices, yeah.
Yeah, and I stuck to, you know, the omega-3s and the water. What do you want to reflect on, just like that journey and what your
well,
thoughts
the fundamental thing you
them?
ran into, like when we started training together, is you were weak and you had no range of motion, like especially around the knee. Like your hips were very flexible.
Yeah.
But your knees didn't move well, right?
Because you were so inflamed?
Well, also I think you were afraid of them, right? Because anything that hurts, you want a baby.
Yeah.
Right? And to an extent, like, you know, don't take it as if it hurts, beat the shit out of it. But it's, and you'll hear this over and over in this, it's little baby steps of progressive overload, right? And that doesn't always mean weight. We just gradually increased your range of motion, right? So whatever you could start with, that's what we started with.
Yeah.
And then we went a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper as the knee joint, you know, became more fluid.
Right.
It's kind of like if you've ever had a sticky hinge, right? You work it back and forth and all of a sudden, you know.
You warm it up.
Yeah. And it moves further.
And so I remember, of course, for me, everything was newbie gains, and that's the good news for anybody first starting out in any new activity, including strength training. But we were adding like 2 pounds a week, maybe.
It was 5, but whatever.
Was it 5?
Yeah, because there's no 2 pound or 1 pound plates. It's like
right. I see everything I do, folks, is always about one side of my bar. That's how I look at it. She would
go, just put on, you know, like I'm going to lift 25 pounds today.
Which is really way more than that.
Which is like a 25 on each end is what she's meaning, plus the weight of the bar.
Yeah. So that's what I meant.
Catherine never learned to speak gym rat.
No. But, it was just phenomenal to me because time flies, how quickly you do improve. And as you always said, is that form always follows function. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, the things will change. And I it really has come back full circle. And I think it really accelerated the past 2 years for me, year and a half during COVID, especially because we started to bring everything indoors. But that's when it really all came together because of a number of things. But now, we'll talk about that in a minute, but honestly, I'm back to my university. I'm 177. Okay. And I'm still dropping weight. I've got, so back to university weight, even high school, actually, when I was 18 years old. I remember that weight. I've got way more muscle than I've ever had. Delts, traps, my back. I'm getting lines on my stomach, vertical lines, and I, make like everything's massive, like obliques. Like I can feel that. It's like, ooh, and when you give me massages once, and you can feel my like the individual muscles. Mm. I'm feeling bones stick out, which is kind of grossing me out on my collar and the delt joints. It's really gross. And he's like, what? That's what you're used to, having fat there all year? I'm like, yeah, I am actually. Now I'm grossed out. But it's, I've got tight arms. They're very thin. They're sculpted. Like, it's just really cool. And I will say my motivation's no longer my knees because they haven't felt pain in a long time. And I'm just trying to see what kind of a fantastic body I can get into at this stage because I've never had it. Right. So it's exciting. And I'm walking around in short shorts, which being Portuguese and carrying those jeans, all on your hips and your thighs and cellulite, like I never did that. And I have a little bit of cellulite, but not as much as I used to. And I'll wear sports bras because I'm so hot all the time, right? Maybe I look hot, but I'm hot. And so I have all of a sudden, the psychological transformation, because there's no more muffin top. It's like just walk around in a sports bra and shorts, go outside, go biking. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Go in a bikini now. It's like, wow, like that wasn't there before.
Yeah, because I think what you'll run into is that if you can make mental changes along the path of physical changes, then the whole of you changes, right? Whereas if there's physical changes happening, but you still think of yourself as the old person,
yeah,
then you still, and this is why some people they make all this progress, but they're not happy because the mental part doesn't go with the physical part. Whereas you're running into that, right? Where it's like, and we've got a bunch of different things to break down with this, right? Because we want people to be able to have the tools themselves to be able to actually execute on this type of thing. But it really does come in. It's like when you're, the you see in the mirror is the you see in your head, right? And it lines up and you're happy about it. Then you can have a much, more positive outlook on yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to say I've always had a positive outlook on myself, maybe too positive, where I think I look thinner than what I do. No, seriously. And then when you see a photo of yourself, you're like, oh, wow.
So at least then you'd be like a happy, chubby person.
I was. No, it's true, you know, and, yeah. But let's talk about something that's real that I think a lot of parents face is the guilt, especially moms. I find this is probably more common with moms because you tend to be taking care of the family a little bit more. I think it's all evening out these days, but I certainly, when I was married, couldn't justify in my mind the time to go to the gym because I felt like I was dumping the kids on my husband. And that was wrong, even though he was exercising, doing his things, going for walks, although he would take the kids too, right? He'd put them in a buddy because that was his exercise. But for me, I couldn't, I did, you face so many pressures. You're trying to take care of the kids. You're trying to take care of the family. You're trying to have a relationship with your spouse, take care of yourself. You've got work, blah, blah, blah. And, taking care of your health often just didn't happen. And there wasn't the crisis moment too, and maybe there would have been at that time. I don't know. I don't think I would have been as successful because in my head, and that was my problem, that was an issue, and I felt like I was being incredibly selfish to take care of myself, even if it was just because. And at the same time, I think in my mind I needed like an hour or 2 hours because that's what, at the gym.
Yeah.
So that's a real thing. It really is. When you're like I co-parent half the time, but when you're a full-time parent, you struggle with that, and you have to at some point reconcile that you just gotta for life, right? So let me explain how I got over it. Certainly that doctor, physiotherapist reading my report helped me like fucking get over it, but I was already going to the gym. They had a daycare, my kids would go there, and my physiotherapist reminded me that me going to the gym, even though they're going to daycare, is a really great role model to your kids to take care of themselves. So I took solace in that. But, that was for quite a few years. And I just, prioritize, and I said to the kids, like, I've got to do this. And then often you and I would meet at the gym, and I know I tried to stick to an hour, an hour 15, an hour and a half at the most, with when the kids were there. And you got to remember, this is me going to the gym, I think picking up at 5, and then we get out of there by 7, and they're going to bed. We're eating, like, you can imagine, like, this is all pretty tight timelines, and they're little kids, but I'm making it happen. And the gains are that you're getting in better shape. You're able to start doing more things, the things that you love, including spending time with the kids. But then there were times over the course of the years that I could include them.
Yeah.
Right? Because we transitioned to climbing, bouldering, indoor climbing.
Well, we added that. Yeah.
We added that. And so it came a point where, like, wow, this is actually something we can do with the kids. And I always loved that because now I know I felt less guilty, right? And a better parent now, including the kids and doing something together. And you don't always work the hardest when the kids are there because they want you to watch them, whatever. But then we start to work as teams and you do. So now you're building a lifestyle that now includes them and is healthy for them, that you can take indoors and out, which now we do mountain biking, which is fantastic.
Well, and back to the thing of, parents prioritizing their own health. Think of what do they tell you in the emergency thing in an airplane? Like, you've sat through a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Put the mask on yourself first, because if you pass out from no oxygen, you can't help anybody else.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just that simple thing. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else.
Honestly, if I had stayed at that weight, I think it'd be pretty scary, especially with what had been happening with COVID and all the mental stress with that.
Well, and if you think about the fact that one of the number one comorbidities with COVID that meant either, severe symptoms, hospitalization, or death was obesity. Right? So even if you didn't know it, moving out of the obese category and becoming fit, because there's also a lot of evidence that now that being fit, like exercising regularly,
150 minutes a week of moderate exercise,
moderate to intense is what they called it in the study. But they looked at basically 100,000 people in Korea, right? And then they also looked at elite athletes and the effect the effect of COVID on them. And if you're not obese and you're in shape, COVID was much more of a nuisance than life-threatening. Right? So those are those kinds of things that even if you didn't know it, you were just preparing for the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. And then the mental outlook, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing that I love about exercise is that just doing exercise alone, a lot of other things just fall into place. Yep. I personally drink a lot more water, which normally I never do because you're thirsty. You need it, right? I tend to eat better because even after exercise, I'm not hungry. Yeah.
But also I think there's a psychological thing with it as well of I just put the work in. I don't want to wreck it.
Well, today I burnt 1,500 calories. I'm like, fuck, I can go have a pizza.
Yeah.
Didn't. No, but you know what? We'll
take and go to that because we went mountain biking today.
Yeah.
And we've got the fancy Garmin watches that give us a rough approximation of the amount of calories we burned based on heart rate.
Yeah.
And so, in a roughly 3-hour ride, Catherine burned roughly 1,500 calories. These aren't like going to a lab and having it measured, but it's an indication. And what did we have for dinner?
Yeah, we had chicken breast, squash, and Caesar salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was grilled on our fabulous Traeger, pellet grill. Now we're like Joe Rogan, podcasters who talk about their Traeger grill.
I know. We need a partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Even though we created a big caloric deficit mountain biking today.
Yeah.
We ate twice today,
Yeah.
and both of them were we're going to be in a caloric deficit.
Yeah, that's interesting. My diet's really changed. And just to finish off what I was saying and continue this point as well. When you start working out, you start to pay attention to how you eat and how, especially if you're strength training, how you can support it. And one of the best things is protein. It's not rocket science. You hear that all the time, protein, eat a lot of food. And protein for weight loss as well. I guarantee, here's my secret. It is, for every pound you weigh, you're supposed to have in grams of protein. Of course, I had at the time I was 200 pounds when I was at that first milestone of weight loss. I couldn't eat 200 pounds of protein a day. Like
200 grams.
200 grams.
Yes, you can.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Even 150 grams was hard. And today is hard.
Yeah.
But you have protein, you have vegetables, right?
You're not hungry.
You are not hungry and you will lose weight.
Yeah. Because one of the
and you will not, and because the other problem with losing weight is people who lose weight because they just calorie deficit, they lose muscle.
And fat, yeah.
And fat, but you don't want to lose the muscle
Yeah.
because the muscle is huge.
The muscle is the engine, right? It's what moves you. And muscle, like if you can increase the amount of muscle mass you have, you will burn more calories doing nothing, right? Like muscle tissue is active tissue.
I just want to give muscle another shout out because this was another aha moment. I used to ride my bike a lot. Actually, when we first met years ago, right? In the Tour de Cambridge, Tour de Grand, whatever it was called. Yeah. And there are hills, that I know exactly what they felt like then. And I went back to it. And I remember about a year after we were working out, I'd go for a bike ride. I'm like, what used to be a cardio issue, even though I was in shape, like it was still hard. I for the first time ride out, which I had not been riding, I had no excuse to have good cardio because we never did cardio in the gym because anything over 5 reps was cardio.
That's what the joke was.
Yeah. So we didn't do cardio at the time. I realized how much my muscles powered me through that hill.
Yeah. It's just you're stronger.
Yeah. And I was like, huh? So I was like, I felt like Scooby-Doo, right? Yeah, it was really interesting. So that was a shout out to me. And at the same time, you look fantastic when you have muscles. And I see that now, right? You can lose weight, but be a flab.
Yeah. It's sort of the standard, or the term for it is skinny fat.
Yeah.
Right? You look in clothes, you look skinny.
Yeah.
But out of clothes, you look doughy. Right? You're just soft.
And it doesn't take long.
To what?
To get rid of the... Let me explain that one. My stomach, my abs.
Yeah.
So that really started, I think, we started training that consistently because we didn't do it in the gym. It was when we started our home gym because of COVID. We did more with resistance bands, right? I'd say the ab roller was huge, huge. Resistance band and ab roller. That alone, oh my God. And then weighted carries.
Yeah.
Right? Those things alone did not take long for you to start building your oblique muscles. And all of a sudden, and of course, when you start to lose weight, but you feel them, you're like, wow, this is really interesting. This is all new to me. So I'm turning myself on, just thinking about wow, what's this? Right.
Yeah.
It's just you know, and it's funny because years ago I had this vision of myself almost like that CrossFit girl look. And I actually see it happening. I never knew what I would look like if I was thinner and muscular, but I see it. I actually see my shoulders almost, those skinny guys that are built, but their shoulders kind of brought out, forward.
3D.
They're see that.
3-dimensional, yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Almost like it concaves in a little bit at the chest, but your shoulders come out. I see that. And I'm like, oh my God. pretty, it's really exciting when you see this body transformation, right? Because it really happened quickly just recently for me. And it was
because it's dropping, building a little bit more muscle and dropping, like, because for things to be visible, there's just a fat threshold.
right.
When you, it's like you're just basically, you've lost weight, but you're still kind of stocky looking. And then a little bit more and a little bit more. And all of a sudden,
Boom.
it's like I can see stuff.
Yeah. And it was, and I can even speak more directly. I know I talked about 5 years of weight loss, but even the past 2 years or even last year, because COVID, right? We're at home, we're working out, and it was going well. I broke my arm in June, my elbow. I couldn't do much for 2 months, right? Really limited my climbing, like anything. I could just walk. I gained 15 pounds because my eating fell out of check. I was on keto or eating like keto, right? No, I wasn't doing the meal plans, but I was doing pretty good. And then I was working out and I gained 15 pounds. So that's real. I think it's very common, COVID-15, right?
Yeah, yours was the broken arm 15.
Yeah. And then I realized, I think what got me back into, well, I'll get too detailed. Didn't like my look in certain positions. But anyways, too much information. No, what happened was, and I was feeling inflammation again. So I'm like, okay, this past November, I went back on keto.
Yep.
But I did it, I knew now to do it religiously based on the menu plan. I lost 12 pounds in 1 week. I had never done that before.
That was just the water, of course.
That was the water. I don't care what you call it. To me, it was just phenomenal. But it was very motivational.
Yes.
Right? To see that. I'm like, boom. I'm like, ooh, this is great. This is really, really great. So I did that. And then we were working. And then I think that gave me, obviously, the levity and the working out, getting back into it, being consistent with working out. This is coming up to Christmas, right? And then came March. We had been working out consistently for quite a few months. And I saw this kettlebell swing challenge that just sounded like so crazy, 10,000 in 1 month. I'm like, and you're supposed to get amazing results. And most people drop like 10 to 20 pounds. I'm like, I'm in. Like, that's just crazy. I if people can do this, I got to check this out. It's like, I fear of missing out. Right. So I do it. And of course it was near Easter and I gained 5 pounds. I remember during Easter because I just went all out on the carbs and the stuffing. But overall, I did lose about 10 to 12 pounds, massive posterior strength, cardio fitness. It was amazing. So those two things, I basically lost 15 to 20 pounds because right now I'm 177. I was close to 200. So that's
23 pounds,
And I've been, continuously losing weight. And then I think what I want to explain to people is that there were goals along the way. Like initially when I first started, I remember I said, my goal is to be able to hike, backpack, with a 30, 40 pound pack on, 25K a day, 5 days in a row, no problem. And I never actually did that.
Yes, you did.
In Utah?
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking? Okay, we did it in Utah. I don't think it was that many kilometers a day though.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
I need to write these things down.
Yeah, like we do.
And that's another key thing. And
that trip total was 6 days, and it was about 140
days?
kilometers.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit. Really? Wow. See, and that's something I'm not good at. Thank goodness for Winston, because he'd constantly remind me, you just broke a record this week, Catharine, strength training. Or did you know this? I'm like, no, I didn't, And the feedback, you kept giving me feedback with the weight loss, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're just being sweet.
But have you ever known me to ever be sweet?
No, you're not. You're not. So I should just take it, right? But it is important to record these things and whatever your goals are, right? Like if it's to look good, is it performance? But for me, it was initially backpacking. And then, the knees did become, even though I was in good shape, I was feeling still inflammation. I could, especially climbing. I remember I wasn't able to do some things like rock onto a knee as you're doing a high knee. Like there are certain movements I couldn't do.
Yeah, and essentially what we've been trying to do is put off knee replacements.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
As far as we can.
Right.
Right. So the fact that you and I mountain biked on, not massively hilly terrain down at Turkey Point today, but it's not flat, right? You're punching steep little hills over and over and over again. Did your knees hurt at all?
Do you know what? You made a really good point there. No, of course not. But I think the first time I rode, my knees, they did. And it was last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I was lighter. I'm trying to remember. It was after I broke my arm. So I was heavier. But my knees were killing me. I remember that because we were at that place, I think in September, that little, looked like a trailer trash cabin. You know what I'm talking about? In Turkey.
Wasaga Beach.
Wasaga Beach. Anyway, it was a cute little place. It was quaint, but it was, anyway. My knees, I had to go to sleep. Like, my knees were in pain. I couldn't do, because I could only do so much. So even from last year to this year, there's been a difference. And I don't know if it's from the riding.
Well,
or
I think,
was it the training we've been doing indoors? Has it translated?
Well, it's going to be a combination, right? Because we started adding in certain movements.
Yes.
Lower body wise.
Like rear stepping lunges, weighted.
Yeah.
Which I love. I hate it, but I love.
Your goblet squats are getting deeper. All those things that have a lot of like knee actuation.
Yeah.
And then you're riding regularly, right? So it's building capacity.
Right. So kind of like what we were doing in the gym, powerlifting. I don't powerlift anymore, obviously, with the COVID too, which actually was a blessing for us to change our workouts, because our workouts now are higher volume, right? Lower weights, because we don't have a rack here.
Yeah.
So we have a plethora of kettlebells that look like they've just had babies, from like 10 pounds up to 60.
62, yeah.
Yeah, some of them doubles, so we could do double squats with whatever. So we have that. Then we had the T-Rex. Now we have the rings instead. We use those. And the chin-up bar. Which, by the way, I've got to record this because we'll talk about my new challenge in a minute. I just did an assisted pull-up, chin-up. For those who don't know what that means, you have a resistance band on the chin-up bar. You stretch it down. You put your knee in it. So essentially,
it takes some of the weight off.
Right. It's like a 40 to 80 pounds, something like that, is the resistance on it. So it gives you about that much off a little bit. And in the past, I had to use a heavier resistance band, giving me even more support. Plus, Winston would have to lift me up for me to do it. My friend said to me, can you do it? I'm like, no, I can't, but I'll show you essentially how. And I did it. And that was from all the other training I did, and plus losing a little weight, right? I couldn't believe it. So I'm really excited.
Nothing will improve your pull-ups quicker than, even if they're assisted or negatives or whatever, like doing pull-ups regularly. You don't have to do a lot, but doing them regularly.
Yeah.
And lose weight. Because you're the weight that you're lifting.
Yeah. And it was funny because Winston had a goal for me in 1 month. It's called Grease the Groove. It's this exercise where if you just several times a day, because I can't do chin-ups, just try, just keep trying. And eventually you'll start, or maybe you want me to do negatives.
Yeah, lower slow.
So you go up, you get a chair, and you lower slow. And if you do enough of those, you just naturally build. Yeah. So if you do 8 of those a day, one at a time at various points.
Fully rested in between.
Yeah, and you do this like 30 days in a row, you will see massive gains. Mm-hmm. And I called him bullshit on that. And I never actually, in this case, we were doing some other training. It wasn't actually just that, but it was training for it. We never stuck with it. I never did it. But at the time, I didn't believe it. But obviously, all the other stuff.
But you've done Grease the Groove with push-ups.
That worked.
Yeah.
That worked really well,
because you can do it with any exercise. Just any exercise that you don't have to set up a lot of equipment.
Yeah. Like chin-ups and me, never in my life have I done that. Mm-hmm. So now that I can at least do it without negatives, like I see a pathway now. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited although I have some kind of tendonitis thing in my elbow, so that might prevent it right now a little bit. But that for me is exciting to do that grease the groove more regularly, to actually document it and share with people, because I think it seems like bullshit to me, but when you actually do it and you get this, you get the results, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing you'll run into, and this kind of is kind of an overarching theme that I always want to get across to like anybody that I help do programs or clients or any of that kind of thing, is if you can restructure your lifestyle, the things like losing weight, building muscle, looking better, being healthier, all of that, they almost happen automatically.
They do.
Right? Because we run into the thing, like human beings are meant to move, right? So if you want to make it really kind of like 10,000 foot view, right? It's a case, and you don't have to implement these things all at once, right? But lift heavy things, right? And how you do that can vary. It can be barbells, it can be fucking stones, right? But humans were meant to lift stuff. And heavy is relative to what you can do at a given point. So it might be little to begin with. You know, but it's like lift heavy things regularly, but don't make yourself tired, like, you know, wreck yourself from it. As Catherine pointed out, when you get injured,
oh my God,
you backslide very quickly, right? Lots of low grade movement, right? Whether it's, you know, it's the puttering, it's the moving around, it's the walking, it's the, you know, anything that isn't like, you know,
your steps, for example,
categorized as exercise.
Yeah.
You know, you're not putting on your like Lululemon pants and, you know, putting a sweatband on and getting the tunes on. No, you're just going about your day, but it's just increase that mid-level activity. Getting up more, walking around more.
Yeah.
Right. Food is remarkably simple. Eat real food, non-processed stuff, because processed foods, like things in packages that don't go bad, are engineered to be hyper palatable. And foods that are super yummy, you tend to overeat on, right? But if the majority of your meals, you know, are whole foods, you know, fruits and vegetables, meats,
lots of protein.
Yeah.
You will not be hungry. The other thing that we do is fasting. Do you still do that, Winston?
Intermittent fasting.
Intermittent? So
well, but that's what it's called. Like, you're not fasting. Fasting's eating nothing.
Right. So what I mean by that is essentially after your dinner, don't eat until like lunch the next day.
Yeah.
But what I do have is a coffee, and I do put cream in that. Okay. So I have
So you're not fasting.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm eating less.
Yeah, that.
And it's caffeine. So caffeine is actually a really good trigger first thing in the morning to free up your brown fat cells. Mm-hmm. Is that what it is? And then it's actually the best time once you've had the caffeine to go exercise at an aerobic state.
Yeah.
You'll burn that much more fat because those fat cells are released and you can burn them. And going to your point about just, you know, not exercising, but just more movement. Something that I noticed for sure working from home, I don't always get a lot of steps in, right? Unless I deliberately go for my weighted hikes that I used to do at the beginning of COVID, and I don't. So on those days that I don't, I'm probably like 2,000 steps. It's really bad. I started dog sitting, right? Mm-hmm. 10,000 steps, no problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, it actually, I really missed the dog because I really loved Fergie. She was so cute. She was such a doll. She was a pug. They're your instant buddy in shadow. Oh my God. Anyways, yeah, it became a ritual. Mm-hmm. And so my ritual in the morning is I get up, have coffee. I put on my shorts, whatever. I go out. I usually putter in the garden because I live in a house now instead of a condo, and I have a garden, and so I'm watering everything. And I like to garden outside, but then, so I just go water those plants, but then I go for a walk. And if I do like a half hour, 45-minute walk, that's like 4,000 steps.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the more, and I listen to the news because I like that. And I listen to a podcast, New York Times. So that's what I do in the morning. Yeah. And I got my coffee and I'm talking to people with their dogs. That's a great morning. Yeah. So it's not just the physical bit, it's the psychological.
Like it sets your day up.
It really does. It's just, it fills my cup. It's how it's so enjoyable. It's my me time.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like if people start thinking of it as the end goal, right? And this is one of the problems so many people run into, is that even if they have all the discipline and they stick with it and they lose the weight and they get in better shape, you know, a lot of times people backslide, right? They gain back everything they lost.
Yeah.
Because they think when they've made it there, they've made it. You know, and then you can just do whatever you want again. Mm-hmm. Right. But any of us that have ever been overweight, you run into the thing. You didn't get there by doing everything right. You know what I mean? There were choices, maybe not well thought out choices, but, you know, whether it's what you eat or how active you are or how much alcohol you drink or any of these different things, right? Because they can have an effect on your body fat levels. If you think of it as less than optimal choices, even small ones, made over a long period of time, have an effect, right? So what I want people to do is think of it as reversing that process. Small beneficial actions done over a long period of time, right? By making it part of your lifestyle, make a massive difference.
You know, in the apartment, you gave me your bike stand, right? This yellow wooden structure that leans against the wall, or weighted with a bike leans against the wall, and you can put two bikes on it. I don't know what it was, but I loved seeing my bike and my trainer in my living room. And at first, when I put the trainer because I have two bikes, one's on the stand and one's on the trainer. I'm like, this is kind of crowded. When my kids come out, we left it there. Mm-hmm. Like I never took it down. It just became a part of the room. Yeah, we have to walk around it.
But then
it reminded me. It was sometimes a clothing rack. I'll admit that. But I think what was cool is it always reminded me. And then I used it all the time. Like I grab my bike and we go biking all the time. And it always put the things that I love front and center. And now this new house that we're in, the living room is like 12 by 25. Half of it is a gym.
Yep.
And great conversation piece. As I work from home, you can see my chin-up bar behind me in the next room. But no, honestly, it's here. It's easy. It's ready to go. It's always in your face as a reminder. Yeah. Aside from being a reminder, it's there.
Yeah.
And it just is a part of my life, and it is on an almost daily basis.
Well, and that's one of those things where, luckily, a lot of our audience, they're into outdoors activities, right? So they like doing stuff. So, you know, they're sort of like in the same position you were in, which is, hey, there's this stuff I like to do. I want to be better at it. So finding, I would be at a loss for people who don't like being active, right? And so finding ways of being more active to accomplish their goals can be really difficult, because if you don't like activity, you know, like we're talking a simple triumvirate, right?
Yeah.
Activity, nutrition, and, you know, the others, and that's sleep,
that's huge.
You know, other things that can sort of make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's infrared sauna, ice baths, you know, there's all these different things, different supplements. Like, they're not going to accomplish it for you, but they can nudge you.
You talked about that a lot, all these little nudges in
Yeah.
the right direction. Let's talk a little bit about, I do relate to the camp that people are like, oh, I hate exercising, especially alone. I'm with you. Like on the exercising alone. So I purposely find people to go do shit with. And I purposely schedule, especially if, in the middle of the day, take a break, work from home, and you're sitting in front of a screen all day. Great time. I actually love listening to REI's Wild Ideas Worth Living podcast. It's my happy podcast when I go on my own in the country roads riding. But then recently I kind of worked out a deal with Ryan because he's been working out with us again. If we have to put out 4 workouts or screw that, even 3, come over at least one day a week, work out with me at lunch. We'll get it done with.
Yeah.
Right? Because I hate working out on my own. Hate it. It's not easy for me at all. So I know that about myself. So I purposely structure my days and find other people to do shit with.
Yeah, and it's that finding whatever your weakness is.
Yeah.
Then you just find a way around it, right? Like if you hate working out on your own,
Yeah.
then, obviously we work out together fairly regularly, but you have a more flexible schedule than I do.
Right.
So then it's the thing of like, okay, well, let's knock off one at lunch and get somebody to come over and do it with you.
Right.
And so it's adding in all of the pieces
Yeah.
that set you up for success.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can figure out whatever your own impediments are, even if they're you, like, you not liking working out alone,
Yeah.
that's not an impediment like not having access to equipment or not knowing what to do. Or, right? That's just a you problem.
It is.
Right? But you found a way around that problem.
Yeah.
And this is the one thing I'll say is stop looking for motivation, right? Because motivation is a transient thing. It's up and down. What you need, and this is a skill you develop like every other skill.
What, discipline?
Discipline. Like
I know.
But the thing is that one of the best things you can do is write out a program, whatever it is, right?
It's true.
And then check it off like a to-do list.
Yeah, there's no questions about what you've got to do. Actually, it's really interesting because people should really listen to a couple other episodes. I think we did one on kettlebell training for the outdoor athlete, which is amazing.
Yes, and
there's
just
a blog about that as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Winston.
So a thing that the principles that we talk about in that can be applied to other types of training as well. Like, I don't want people to go, well, I don't have kettlebell, so I can't,
Right.
Like, we apply the same principles to body weight training or barbells or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just kettlebells, because of the convenience, happen to be a tool that we're a big fan of for home gyms.
Very multifunctional, quite honestly. I'm actually thinking about getting rid of my dumbbells. We never use them.
Yeah, the only thing, they're not bad for the kids.
I was wondering about that too, though.
And you forget, a little while ago, I was doing bicep curls.
Were you?
For a 4-week cycle. Just because, when we both measured our arms and your arms are bigger than mine. I had to.
I do have some fat on my arms, though. Yeah. But discipline, I think the other thing that really helped me was setting goals. So actually the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge, I had to work out on my own because it was 5 days a week and you were not working out 5 days a week for about a month. And I did it because I was on a mission.
Yeah.
Right. So there was that. That's very helpful. But the other thing too that I love about mountain, like, find activity that you love. Mountain biking today, 2.5 hours of riding. I don't even know how many kilometers we put on, but my heart rate was on average 155 for 2.5 hours of riding. And that's just fun for me. And at points it was 180 and I'm like painting. Yeah, I'm tired. But it is like, you're a big kid. It's like pure joy. And like, what exercise do you normally do for that long, that sustained?
That's that fun.
Yeah.
right? And that's
my jam.
yeah, and that sort of goes back to that thing when I was talking about of like people. I don't know what to say to people that don't have anything physical they like to do. Right? They want the results, right?
Yeah.
They want to lose weight, they want to feel better, they want to look better, all that kind of thing. But there's nothing they like to do, right? Activity wise, because like us going mountain biking, like we had the day off today.
Right.
That's what we did. That wasn't like done as a workout. We did that because that's fun for us.
Yeah.
But it's an ass kicking workout.
But our workouts incredibly translate, because when we went out for the first time, at least when I did, I noticed how agile I was on the bike from when I last remembered. And that's all because of the training indoors over the winter, right?
Yeah,
or even the spring.
We have a broad base of general fitness. So then anything you do, you're not going to be the best at it because it takes specific skill.
Right.
Like you're a way better mountain biker now than you were at the beginning of the season.
Oh, really? Okay.
You don't know that? Like how you just float through trails and
technically speaking, yes, I'm more confident.
Yeah, like that's what I mean about the skill.
Yes.
Right? You look like a mountain biker now. Right? As opposed to, a Fred riding through the forest. Like you're not locked armed, you're not like you float. Right? And so that's a skill thing, right? And your fitness is better as well. And so when all of these things go together, you just do it better.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of those things. Like you really need to start keeping a journal that you can go back
see
to
the progress. Yeah.
because you don't remember any of it.
I know.
Like because this is our second time riding at Turkey Point this year.
Yeah.
And like you were exponentially better this time than last time.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we did a lot of blacks, right? I couldn't go up all of them, but nevertheless, I was really tired a little bit today. My body felt fatigued from the training, I suppose, this week. That's why it's hard for me to... You know what it goes to show is your perception's not reality.
No.
You need to write it down.
Yeah.
You need to document. Yeah. So... it doesn't matter. I know we're talking about mountain biking and climbing and backpacking. Like, it doesn't have to be those things for you.
No, that just happens to be our palette we paint from.
But I would say, it's really interesting. Is it John Paul? What is it? Coach? Dan John, thank you. I hate two first names as a... Why did his parents do that? Okay, Coach Dan John. He's got something called the Easy Strength program.
Yep. You got a great book, co-authored with Pavel Tatsulin, the crazy Russian that brought kettlebells to North America.
Yeah.
I have a copy of it.
And I mentioned this because, and I actually haven't done it, but when you've broken down the routines, I'm like, wow, that's easy. That's why it's called Easy Strength. But the premise is that you do this workout that is, when you do it individually, pretty stupid easy, and you're wondering if it's actually doing anything. But you do it 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And you do it, is there a time?
You run
a month?
2 months.
2 months. And what kind of gains do they talk about getting from that?
Well, so you get stronger, right? So the whole concept is you're going to do 5 exercises. So it pretty much covers the whole body. 5 exercises. Each exercise, you're going to do a maximum of 10 reps. So generally, you'd structure it. 3 of the days are just 2 sets of 5. 1 of the days are 3 sets of 3, and then 1 day is a really lightweight, and you just do 10 reps. And that's it. Then you go to the next exercise. And you go up in weight when it feels easy, right? Hence easy strength. And because you're doing 5 days a week, you're getting like 50 reps a week per exercise at a moderately heavy weight, but it should never be a struggle, right? It's like you put 5 in and it was like, oh, well, next time I'm going to go up, and you go up 20 pounds. And you just run into the thing. You get strong because strength is a skill. and you're practicing it, right? But if you practice it enough, there is enough stimulus that your muscles grow, you know? So you wouldn't train that year round. Like I would sort of alternate and be like 2 months of easy strength, 2 months of, could be like some kettlebell stuff like we do, then 2 months of, or maybe twice a year do the 10,000 swing challenge.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
You know, if you mixed a few modalities together, like in 8-week blocks, it wouldn't be very hard to put a whole year together.
Yeah, you just got to be careful because I ran into this overuse injuries with the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge.
Well, your hand was fucked up before that.
It was, but it's my feet. I'm trying to figure. I lost sensation in my toes.
But yeah, and we're trying to figure out what caused that.
Yeah, but I also have. No, it could just be. And I think a lot of people run into this. They get numb hands from when they have their cell phone in bed. But I get this riding too, and it's just. And then I notice when I sleep, whenever my arms are bent, I'll wake up in the middle of the night because I can feel that. And it irritates me. So it might be related to my feet. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. But nevertheless, it might just be tight calves I've never dealt with. And it's pressing on a nerve with my feet. Yeah, it's a really neat challenge. I mean, all of these challenges, I think they help to keep you disciplined to complete them. Because that there's a guaranteed some kind of a positive result. Which is, I'd like to do the easy strength for fun because we know that it produces. Yeah. So let's try it, just like Grease the Groove. And you came up with a variation to the 10,000 swing challenge, which is you're not doing the same thing in excess. Instead, you're doing a few other. You're spreading, like you're building strength 5 times a week at a more aggressive level, high volume, but you're doing it across different. Exercises. Could be goblet squats.
So the swing is always in there.
Right, but you're not doing 500 in a session. You might be doing 100, and then you're splitting up some other.
Oh, you're not talking the original variation I did for you to do it.
Yes, I am. Whatever, but that I ended up not doing it just because I was.
No. But I mean the first variation, where it was like an EMOM.
Right.
Swing. Push-ups, swing.
No,
push-ups.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about more recently. I wanted to do it again, but without the overuse injury.
Yeah, of just a little bit more variety.
A variety of exercises, but ones that are really good for you to make a difference. Yeah. So I find that knowing that you're going to get results is motivating. Right.
When you don't have to kill yourself to get them, you're going to work. But
they're not hard.
Yeah.
Like when of course, the first week of the 10,000 swing challenge, just for people who don't know, that's 2,500 swings a week, 500 a session, 5 times a week. It's a lot. But once you get used to it, you put on the tunes, and it almost becomes like meditative. Yeah. You just do it, and you're done. And there's nothing better than being done in a workout in 30 minutes. Because now I'm getting really, what's the word? Lazy. If I have to do more than 30-minute workout, I don't want to work out forever. I don't. I feel good, but I feel good when it's done. Yeah. And the workout you gave us this week were like 20 minutes. Is that it?
It's 23, but
whatever. So we did it, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. It turned out being hard. I underestimated because it was 6 kettlebell presses per arm in 1 minute. So 12. Yeah. And then you got to do the Y bands. Like you take a resistance band, put it at your feet, and then you move your arms up like at the YMCA. Yeah. And you do 10 of those, and your shoulders will burn.
But then, do you wonder why you've got the shoulders you have now?
I wasn't doing that before.
No, but you were doing variations.
Yeah, I do wonder actually. Like you know what it is that I lost weight, right? And so I don't know if they've always been there, and I just couldn't see them.
No, because you did not have 3D traps when you were sort of like an inactive house mom.
No, I'm talking. I'm talking about like when we've been working out for 5 years.
Oh yeah, well no, a lot of that.
At what point did those traps really start to develop? Was
well,
that
probably from an ass load of the deadlifts you did.
right? So they were always there.
Well, no, but
we just couldn't see them because
well,
I
it
lost
wasn't-
the weight.
it wasn't like you just-
we argue like this.
Yeah,
every
but
now-
but it wasn't like you developed them in the first year and then they stopped developing in the preceding 5 or 4 years.
okay.
Right? It's like you've been making steady progress on muscular development and steady, it's got its ups and downs, but steady progress in fat loss. And so you're reaching a point where the two are crossing, right? The fat is coming down enough and the muscle is going up enough where it's like, ooh, I like that lighting.
I know. When you get the dimples in your
In your delts. And you can see like
and
all
you can
three,
see like 3 different dimples.
3 different heads of the delt.
Is that what that is? Yeah.
Yeah, because you have an anterior, medial, and posterior
Yeah,
deltoids.
it's pretty. You start looking like that guy in the the bodybuilders checking out his muscles. And
Yeah. At least, see, this is the good thing is at least you're doing it at home.
at home, not at the gym.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But it's really, it's fascinating, especially, you're 46 years old. If you get bored with your body, like it's something new to do,
Yeah.
and
you feel better.
you
Like
do.
that's the whole thing. It's like we're, not just dealing with, okay, you look better, which you do, but you also are stronger. You're mentally more resilient. You're cardiovascularly fitter, right? You can just do more. And you're healthier,
Oh yeah.
right? So when you look at it, like,
And it actually does builds even more momentum to do more,
yeah.
to fine tune things now.
And then you have to put a leash on the girl because, ran into the thing of, 2 weeks ago went, oh man, I feel great. So I'm going to ride my bike 8 times in a week. And then how come my back's hurting? Because you went from 3 or 4 strength workouts a week and 3 bike rides
and
to
then 2 big ones.
to 8 bike rides.
Yeah.
It's funny. And that is not progressive overload.
I felt good. That's the problem.
Until
was that,
you didn't.
well, and I didn't know why my back was doing that because every now and then you wonder, right, if it's something different that you pulled. And then I realized as I'm riding with you at probably one of the highest paces I ever have at Waterloo Hydro Cut, that those muscles are hurting. I'm like, oh, it's from riding, mountain biking. That sucks. Because you feel good, but your muscles don't in that area, which is weird. Like the rest of you can keep going.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? Yeah, that was a downer.
Yeah. So if you take a little hint, if you're going to increase your workload, like never more than 10% per week.
It truly is training, and I think that was a different mentality in working out with you, is that, when you are at the gym and working out, it's not about maximal effort unless you purposely put that into your program and you're at that stage all of a sudden. But it never lasts very long. It might be just like one session, and it takes another month to get back to another maximal effort because it go up and down, and it's really phenomenal. Like, honestly, I say to Ryan when we work out, I'm like, I can't believe these workouts do shit, because you're like, is this it? Okay. Which I'm happy with, because I'm like, I want minimal at work because I don't want to be working out. I don't like working. I do it because it works. And once you get into routine, you feel good and you do get progress, and it's nice. But I don't do it because I love it at all. So I think that is helpful for people to know that there are such things as workouts. And if they want to know more, to basically check out what we've got or reach out to you. You can do that via our website.
Yeah. And this is another one of those ones, another one of the little gems for people to think about is, when you are working out, you want to do the minimum effective dose, right? No more than you need, right? There's no point in, especially if you're just starting working out, right? Like if you're honest with yourself and it's like you've let yourself go or whatever we call it, and you've been kind of sedentary for a long time, your workouts can be 10 minutes long and you can see progress, right? They don't, and they don't have to kill you, because what we're looking to do is do a little bit more than you did before. Well, if you're doing nothing, everything is a little bit more, right? So and that's the fabulous thing. And so it's just little doses, because as you get fitter, the doses have to get larger.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's always ways, and it doesn't have to be longer. That's what I like.
Yeah.
You don't have to, that doesn't mean now you have to be on your bike for like 2 hours because you've reached that point. There's different things you can do, whether it be, let's say, strength training. It could be volume. It doesn't have to be more volume. It could be going up in weight. It could be shorter rest times.
Yeah,
it's like supersetting. You do one exercise and reducing, like doing every minute on the minute. So you do your exercise on the minute, and whatever time you have left over, you rest. But then you start up again, and you could do either 10 of those same exercises in a row, which will really fatigue you, or if you have 3 different exercises, you cycle through them.
Yeah, you circuit.
You do a circuit, and then you come back to that original exercise if you've done 3 on the 4th set. So then you've had a bit of a break. And you always, like, if you're going to do that, you want to rest. You do a lower or upper. You do a different muscle group so you don't fatigue it, unless that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and that's where, that you start to get into some of those, like, nuances of programming.
Right.
Which for you matter because you've been training for a while now.
Right.
Right, and how I structure things. But for most people, it's like, if you, from a strength standpoint, if you do a push, which could be a push-up or overhead press, anything like that, you do a pull, so that could be like any type of row, pull up, pull down, face pull, then you do a squat and you do a hip hinge, and some sort of loaded carry. There's a whole body workout, right? You've hit everything. If you do that regularly, you're going to run into the thing and, progressively overload, whether it's adding a little bit of weight, doing a few more reps, a few more sets, just little steps along the way. You do that consistently for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. You get in the position that Catherine's been in, which is, oh my God, I can't believe.
It's the what the fuck effect.
Yeah, but it's the thing where it's a journey, right? Not a destination.
Yeah. So last, I just want to say some of my key success tips that really worked for me that I think could have accelerated this had I implemented them or even known about them, but probably implementing is more the thing because you're always telling me what to do. Protein. So when it comes to food, more protein, vegetables. The fasting really works for me. It cuts out calories in the morning. I'm using caffeine and burn extra fat if I go do exercise. Mm-hmm. So that's huge. The next thing I would say would be every minute on the minute. Love the supersetting. Love, when you go from one exercise to the next on reduced amount of rest.
Yep.
It's fast. It's efficient.
It ends up building both strength, muscle,
and cardio.
Yeah, in one workout.
Exactly. And so less, and other people have been talking about this too, Winston, higher volume, like working with kettlebells and lower weights, less load on your joints. Mm-hmm. So none of that joint fatigue that you would normally feel at the gym, right? Because you're lifting really heavy loads.
Yep.
And especially as you get older, you start to feel that. So I would say, honestly, every minute on the minute is fantastic. I don't think it matters whether you're using a kettlebell or dumbbell weights, but I don't know. The kettlebells are so great because they're so multifunctional. You can do everything.
Yeah, because you can do ballistic exercises like the explosive ones, like swings or cleans, and then you can do the grinds, right? Like your Turkish get-ups and your overhead presses. And then, of course, they're perfect for any kind of weighted carries.
Right, and you can use dumbbells for those, but when the ballistic exercises,
they don't.
You're better off with the kettlebells, and there's a lot of benefit to that. Which, when I did the kettlebell swing challenge, oh my God, massive! That was also because of volume, but your whole posterior chain is
if you want, ladies,
increased.
If you want that booty popping, Nothing like doing 10,000 swings in a month.
Again, I didn't notice, but I'm not looking at my beauty.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like and it's really a shame for you because your back, like upper back, your butt, your lower back, like all of that is so well developed.
Wow.
But you have no clue because you never see it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, look at, it's like the traps and the lats and the, spinal erectors and all the different muscles in your back.
Yeah.
Right. Are super strong,
yeah.
And super well developed.
Apparent, yeah.
But you don't see them because they're behind you.
Anyway, hope that this was helpful for you. Check out our other podcasts. We'll put them in the show notes related to this topic. But, having gone through this myself and feeling a bit more of the holy shit, what's just happened here, we thought it was worthwhile sharing this with you, especially how far I've come, because it has been a challenge and I had a lot of obstacles against me. But, it's definitely a mental shift. But I think when you're just doing what we all love, which is some kind of outdoors and adventure, this is why we're here listening to this podcast, you always want to get better and you just want to do more of it. So whether you do more of that, it is always worthwhile checking out some exercise to support it, though, because you can't just always hike and do more hiking. There's things you can do to increase your muscle strength.
Yeah, because there's always a law of diminishing returns. So, a little bit of mixed training, a little bit of protein, a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of good night's sleep.
Huge.
Yeah. So on that note, until next time, as Catherine said, anybody got questions, send them in to us. And if you just go on livewildradio.com, you can click in the comment box and send us a comment. Hopefully you guys found that useful. So until next time, work hard.
Play dirty.